Rebellious Studio presents the Mind Body Podcast with your host, Maria Angelova. Hello, Rebels, to your Mind Body Podcast with your host, me, Maria, your rebellious podcast about the strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And I am thrilled to be here with you today with Dr. Jatto out of Pennsylvania. And we're going to have a great conversation. Very quickly, I will tell you, I met Dr. Jatto, Claudette Jatto, at a medical conference, and I am a firm believer that like attracts like, because we hit it off right away. And as we have been getting to know each other, I was like, oh, you have to come to the podcast because we speak the same language. And as she shared something with me, just to give you an idea, she brought the topic of purpose and gratitude, which, as you know, are huge in my vocabulary. So without further ado, Claudette, tell us first 3 words that describe you. If you had to pick up 3 words that describe you.
First word would be beauty.
Love it.
Second word would be passion. Third word would be love.
Oh, I like that. Passion, love. I love it. High vibrational words. Oh,
High vibration. Yes.
And as we hopped onto screen, I'm sure you can't miss the background and the bright colors that are all around, right? I was like, oh my gosh, my background is all of a sudden really boring. I need to spice it up because I think all of the words that you brought go along with the colors that we see behind you and on your shirt and in your smile.
Exactly. Today is a rainy day in Harrisburg. We have a little bit of the rain coming in from obviously the southeast, and it's a gray fall day. And so I was very intentional. I thought, how can I create that ambience? I thought, wow, I am going to go all the way spring in the middle of fall so that we talk about joy, we talk about passion, we talk about purpose without feeling the weather effect creeping into our conversation. So this is my jump off, that we're going to be vibrant, we're going to be joyful, we're going to be colorful, and we're going to live life with purpose and passion.
And you see, intention is one of my favorite words. I don't know if you knew that, but when I speak, you know, that like attracts like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We speak the same language. So speaking of intention, speaking of joy, tell us a little bit of what has brought you to this point of your life. What, you know, doctors, it's a hard area to be in, right? There's a lot of burnout. There is, especially lately with COVID and isolation, there is a lot of issues. There is understaffing in the medical field.
It is.
What keeps you positive and joyous, but with your cup full? Who are you? What has brought you to this point of your life and realizing the power and joy?
Exactly. I have to say that even before the pandemic, I had a stirring in my soul, and I knew that the way I was practicing the traditional model of medicine was not what I was called to do. And there was that aspect of the inner voice that became louder and louder and louder. And it wasn't so much that I was burning out, but I was coming into a sense of awareness and almost a sense of I had to be authentic in whatever I was going to practice, whatever I was going to share. And it became more than just a job. It became, how do I start to come up with what would be my true authentic way to practice? And I didn't find that model out there. I knew that in the medical training that I'd had, it was more about seeing patients, addressing acute as well as chronic issues, coming up with quick on your feet, one-stop prescriptions, and then out the door in comes another. And there was just something about that that wasn't authentic to who I was. And so it began a journey of me trying to say, really, who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Why am I so passionate about wanting to share more than just fixing things with Band-Aids and wanting to go into more of a big picture integrativeness? Why? And the further I looked, I just didn't find it. And it became an aha moment where I thought, then I'm supposed to create it. And so that began my journey 12 years ago, where it wasn't so much that there was a structured fellowship program or a structured way to tap into what I would call these services. It became very organic in my approach to wanting to now go on my own. And so I had to take a chance on myself. I had to quit what was safe, what was considered a phenomenal career, because I had a beautiful, thriving practice with other doctors. But something about it made me feel this was the right decision, even without having the guarantees. So the rebellious me, just like you, said, okay, I'm going to jump. And the most thing will happen is I fail, but at least I tried. So
Yes.
that's what I did. I jumped and I said, I'm going to create my idea of what it means to be a healer and who happens to be a physician. And that's my story. That's my why.
I love it. You mentioned so many things that I want to ask follow-up questions.
Yeah.
So you talked that you practice different type of medicines. For our listeners, explain what you mean when you're talking about that. We did meet at the concierge medicine forum.
Yes.
So tell people who are not familiar with concierge medicine, what does that mean?
So what it means was that prior to getting into the authentic style of what I practice now, I ran a traditional practice as an internist. It means that we took care of very sick people in the hospital, the ICU, the critical care, but we also saw patients in the office. So I would like you to think of that traditional physician who has patients coming in, probably seeing you every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes, keep it moving, not necessarily in and out, not being able to impart more of lifestyle where we can go into root cause analysis as to why are you in the scenario you're in? What's the reason? How do we get behind a strategy that's customizable? That's not what I practice. We practice based on evidence. We practice based on, here's what we do for, say, diabetes, blood pressure. But that was not my calling. And so where Maria and I met was in a forum where we had doctors of like mind that have scaled back into coming to terms with they're better when they're able to give more and come with a full solution-based approach versus this quick one-stop type approach. And so the word concierge does not necessarily mean a membership fee. It doesn't necessarily mean that you pay oodles of dollars. It means doctors who are willing to practice quality medicine, who are willing to go all the way out to provide the kind of service that they want or their family members should have. So that concierge word is an umbrella for people that practice what I would call individualized medicine, who strongly believe and are passionate in more than just treating, but preventing. And we come with all stripes and all types of formats. So I would say that that's where I'm at now, practicing concierge medicine that I would call customized, one-on-one, personalized medicine. And that's how we met.
That is how we met. And I think I share that with you. The same thing is for me, right? I am very individualized attention to my clients. And even if they're in a group setting, I have that one-on-one relationship with them. Yeah. And as I was interacting with everybody, I was like, I am actually running a concierge practice, which I called it a boutique practice.
Yes.
But I love the word concierge because you're right, the individualized attention, the relationship-driven model of just having numbers coming in and coming out. It is a very different interaction with the patient, right? And it allows us to be who we are, but it also allows us to get to know the rebel on the other side, right? Really get to know people. And speaking of rebel, tell me, you refer to the word rebel. What is your definition of rebel and rebellious? When you think of rebellious, like
I think rebel, the reason why I got attracted to even wanting to find out more about you is rebel is, in my mind, somebody who thinks outside the box, somebody who is not ready to conform, somebody who's willing to understand that they may be a pioneer in a path they're choosing, but don't necessarily have what I call a safety net, but they're willing to jump. But they're jumping because they believe in themselves. They're jumping because they believe in the purpose as to why they were brought into this universe in the first place, to be able to have that skill set. And they're not willing to say, because my immediate, say, family or colleagues or friends think this is a bad idea, that I'm going to listen to them. They march to their own drumbeat. So I think that somebody who's rebellious is not negative. it means that you are a positive rule breaker. That means that you're a pioneer.
That a
That
positive
means that you're willing to take yourself on adventure and you're not willing to just settle with what is. So for me, that word is positive. It's an empowering word. It's an endearing word. So it's a word that I think a lot of the listeners today are going to connect with. Even if you haven't done anything unique, but you're getting a stirring in your soul, that is the rebellious spirit. That's your authentic self talking, saying, no, whatever you're doing, this is not for us. This is not what you're about. So we all have that streak, but are we going to listen? Are we going to follow it? Are we going to dream big? That's what I think it means to be rebellious in my book.
I think you nailed it. And I think the reason I chose rebellious is because when I was getting all of the feedback of what you're doing crazy, doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? I wanted a word that was like, well, I'm going to do me, you know, and true to me. And something very interesting that you said you're true to yourself and you have a purpose, right? That you believe in.
Yes.
Very interesting, because I think with me, I found myself through my purpose. I don't know if that makes sense. I started with a purpose and something I was attracted to. And like you said, I had that inner voice, which really didn't make sense. It was a gut feeling rather than a common sense feeling. Through the process, I found out I didn't believe in myself. And I had to go through this huge growth mindset shift to where I believe in myself, to where I completely trust my gut. And I allow myself to be authentic, whether people like me or not, which that can be a scary place when you step out into your authenticity and you get all the feedback of why you shouldn't, right?
It is. It is. I think that it's almost like the book, The Alchemist. You know, when you have the whole universe conspiring, it's bending you in the direction of where you're supposed to be. And sometimes it's precipitated by a life event. It could even be a personal life event. It could be a separation, it could be a divorce, it could be financial, where maybe you've come into this rough spot. But usually what triggers us to start to go, wait a minute, something, there's a catalyst, you know, and everybody's story is different. Everybody's story is different. But it's when you start to come to terms with that quiet, that sense of something is not lining up the way it's supposed to. But then you're not ignoring it anymore like you may have done before. Because all of us have gone through that chapter in our lives where we did everything on paper that was good. We went to this college and we got that degree. We were expected to, we did all the expected stuff, but you're left not quite there. So when you get to that point, irregardless of the trigger, where you now are able to face almost that demon, if it's the lack of belief in yourself, if it's past trauma, if it's a new unfortunate experience, it propels you. It's almost like the difficulty in of itself is the launch pad into your greatness, you know? So it's almost like you sometimes in life have these adversities that are either supposed to maybe break you, but then something kicks in and then you go to the place you're meant to be. And I think that was a little bit of what I was going through when I began to think, this is not for me. It was little pointers from the universe. No, you could do better than this. No, you're not using your full skill set. No, this is not why you're a physician. And then finally opening up to that listening and saying, okay, what do you want me to do? And then boom, the ideas start kicking in.
And then taking action after it, right? Because especially when it's unconventional and scary, and you said there is no motto for it. So what do I do? How do I come up with that motto?
Yeah.
It can be a scary place.
It is. It is. I have to admit, it was not easy. And it was uncomfortable because I would wake up saying, what if I can't support my family? What if I can't support myself? What if I bring people on this journey and they find out that I'm a fake and phony? What if this collapses before I even get off to a good start?
We get into our head and all those thoughts are swirling in there, and it's so easy to quit. And especially if you get those same type of reinforcement from those around you, what if? Yes. And suddenly that noise starts getting louder than what's inside here, right?
Yes. There's always going to be a bunch of naysayers. We can agree on that. And then there are going to be more naysayers than yesers. But I remember saying, I remember that one person that I came up with the concept and said, I've got to start this practice in 90 days. And of course, I went to a lender, a bank, a big established bank, and they looked at me and said, no, this takes about 9 months, maybe a year. Where's this document and where's that document? And it's very interesting because the answer came through a patient who came into the office, and I was saying, I have this idea of what I want to do. And she looked at me and said, I knew it. You need to go for it. That's a patient. And I go, yeah, but look at what just happened. I went to a bank, and then out of her mouth, she goes, oh, wait a minute. My husband knows a friend who has a bank manager. I'm going to ask my husband to call his friend. And that was it. Called his friend. He called me up and said, can I hear your vision? He didn't ask for documents, didn't ask for papers, didn't ask for what exactly is your performer, what's your projections, no numbers. He asked me to explain it. Do you believe in yourself? He said, we're going to do it. So when the universe is conspiring to give you what you're supposed to have, sometimes the solutions come where you least expect them. Mine came from a patient who was just listening to me and goes, yes, you're going to do this. You have to do this.
And you know how funny is that you're there to support her, right? And suddenly she's there to support you, which is what I always tell my clients, that they're my fuel. Yeah. And I always tell people, what is it that you want? And stay clear of what is it that you want. Don't worry about the how, because we're so conditioned to think, oh, how am I going to do this, right? Get out of your way and let the universe, God, divine spirit, whatever you
want to call it. Yes.
Yes. Let that figure out the how. You just stay true to what you want.
Yes.
With your heart and with your energy.
Yes.
And, you know, little miracles like that will happen from the places that you least expect them from.
This is just like two people. I hope everybody's enjoying this, but I almost feel like this is a lot that's going on. Everything I'm saying is what you're saying. And this story is a story of what I believe it means when you're going to be rebellious. And there's nothing that I can think of, whether it's new technology, a new approach to healthcare, new approach to taking care of yourself. Somebody had to go through this experience to break the mold and say, why do we have to do this way? Because we were told, or is it because this is a dream that I now have that I'm going to break the mold? So it's exciting for us to look at now how far we've come in various journeys of aspects we're taking. But I have to say that your story is my story. And I wonder how many else out there listening to this, that's their story too. It may be a different concept, a different product, but this is a story that's very, very universal.
It is. And I think hopefully for many who are listening, if they haven't experienced that story, it will empower them to go after their dream or after what they want, because once again, we all have these great visions and great dreams. And then we say, well, but how am I going to do that? And then you consult somebody, they're like, yeah, that's not going to work out. Right? And then you go, yeah, why bother? Right.
Right.
And then life goes and the years pass by, and that thought is like always there in the background, right?
Exactly.
And how many people go through life never realizing a dream because of the fear and the naysayers and us getting in our own way. Without getting,
I just can't imagine. I don't ever go back to thinking of being alive and not having purpose and passion, you know? I mean, time is so precious. We get to have this one opportunity to live life. For me, life is beautiful. Life is gorgeous. Life is good health. Life is medicine. Life is movement. Life is food. To just go through it almost at 50% capacity, what a waste. What a waste of a gift.
Well, that goes back to the words you started with, intention, right?
Yes.
So are you intentional about how you live, or are you just going through the motion? And I think exactly what you're saying. I think there's plenty of people out there, no judgment, that go through life on the hamster wheel, right? It's get up, auto repeat, and then do it again and again and again. And there is no passion. There is no spark. There is no, there is really no purpose.
There's no purpose. And I'm seeing it now. The pandemic, if I have to use what has occurred to all of us, there's no question that this is relatable. The universe shifted in the last 2 years. Everything that we thought was normal was thrown upside down. And so for those of us who clearly were already in a place of coming to a love relationship with why they wake up, we were able to ride this wave. But I can't tell you how much this changes, the stress this has created. This has caused so much disruption that the number one thing that I think of is mental health. Why? Because this has become such a game changer that if you're operating out of 50%, it's not hard to get exhausted. It's not hard to get burnt out. It's not hard for that to become physical issues, medical issues,
Yes.
even movement issues, that there's no doubt in my mind that the pandemic was in a way a wake-up call for all of us. Don't think you know what life means, because in a flash of an eye, everything that's normal is not going to be normal. How do you shift gears? Yeah, how do you shift gears?
And speaking of that, that's such an important topic because I see it a lot with the people I interact with. I see that, and I would love to hear your opinion on that, that
Sure.
people don't have the tool set to deal with changes. And it's one change after another. It changed the relationships. It changed it brought isolation.
Yeah.
It brought health issues,
Yeah.
loss of loved ones, right? It was a combination of things.
Yeah.
Let's shift to self-care.
Self-care.
And let's talk about the importance of, you brought up lifestyle, you mentioned lifestyle and self-care. And from the position of a physician and a rebellious physician, which let's talk about the importance of taking care of yourself and keeping your cup full. You know, to me, self-care is also something that connects you to your vision, your heartbeats, to, you know, helps you quiet the mind. Talk a little bit about that from where you stand.
Yes. So the way I think of this now is there's no difference. It's a continuum. Mental health, spiritual health, food health, fitness health. It is wellness. So how you think, because you are what you think. How you eat, you are what you eat. How you move, you are what you move. Toxicity, social circles, you are who you choose to participate with. Toxins, vices. If you're smoking a lot, then that's going to have a deleterious effect. If you're drinking too hard, that's going to have a deleterious effect. So as a physician, one of the things that I'm becoming more and more sure about is that majority of our chronic care issues, whether you think about cancer, whether you think about diabetes, obesity, hypertension, cardiovascular changes, the vital signs of life are a part and parcel of what you have to be mindful of. You have to be mentally in a state of balance. It doesn't matter how physically good you're going. If you're mentally not in a state of balance, it's not going to work. You're not in good health. You have to physically take care of yourself. Physically means you have to move. The body is designed to move. What I see now is what I call movement deficiency disorders.
And I love that. You told me that and I was like, you have to be
right. So I'm talking about how that is chipping away at everything. And that you may be looking at a constellation of joint issues, muscle issues, sleep issues, weight issues, even blood pressure issues that are all part and parcel of your lack of movement. But what about food? We're getting to a place where we have to now go back to the basics. It's not enough to have food to fill you up. You have to think of this food as the most amazing way and tool that you nurture yourself for your mental, physical well-being. So you have to think of nutritiously dense food. You have to think of those things as providing your body's daily function. Micronutrients, macronutrients, you name it. We have to start to think about our sourcing of food. Is it fresh? Is it not fresh? Why is that important? That food is medicine. I can get somebody's blood pressure to go down by 5, 10 points. If we're putting foods that cause a blood pressure drop by relaxing blood vessels, that help take care of free radicals, by making sure that you have optimal energy levels, you'll be amazed that with lifestyle, following a DASH plan, you can get that blood pressure to improve, if not normalize. Now, are there going to be times where we need prescriptions? Absolutely. But we have to say, listen, let's go back to the basics. That food being medicine means that we can treat a lot of conditions that we call chronic. Maybe we can even cure some things with the right food. Are we willing to go there? What about movement? Can we take care of some chronic musculoskeletal problems? More so than a prescription? Yes, we can. So as a physician, my take on a lot of this now is that if we all start singing the same song, those who work in physical therapy, those who work as chiropractors, those who work as wellness coaches, those who work as psychiatrists, those who work as critical care doctors, that we share, I am giving you a treatment for this immediate issue, but you got to go to the basics. Go to the root cause analysis. Let's get the foundation right. I am willing to bet that that's going to be hopefully in the future called good medicine, not outside the box medicine or rebellious medicine. That's going to be called, that's what I expect my provider and I to discuss medicine. We're not there, but we better get there because the pandemic has exposed we are deficient in all the vital signs of life.
Absolutely, absolutely 100% agree, because as you know, one of my biggest goals is to really change the mindset around wellness, right? Prioritizing one's self-care, making sure that you're moving, that you're eating well, that you're sleeping, that you're hydrating, things that sound so basic, but like you said, have such a profound effect on our well-being.
Absolutely.
And even in the conference, all of the sessions that I attended that were mostly on medical topics, every single physician addressed the aspect of lifestyle.
Yes.
No matter whether it was cognitive disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, whatever the disease was, there was a lifestyle factor. And lifestyle is something so basic, yet so complicated.
So complicated, right? Yeah.
Because it is so much easier to pop a pill rather than to start.
Choosing
the better foods. And you know, you made a great point of even sourcing your foods correctly, right? Because nowadays, sadly, the nutritional values of food
is getting depleted. Yep, I agree.
The hormones that are in there. And I mean, that's a whole other topic that we can talk about. But so important. And I personally, from what I see, I'm so excited to hear that physicians are speaking about this.
Yes.
And then also, let me ask you this. I had a client who's also a physician, and she went to a conference recently, and she actually was sending me slides where they were talking about lifestyle. Like, look what's here. And I was so excited that she's excited, right? Because we have those same conversations like you.
Exactly.
And I said, ask the question, when they recommend this to their patients, what are the resources that they provide to their patients? So for you as a physician, when you tell somebody you should eat better, you should move, you know, these are simple enough things, but for somebody who is a couch potato, has always eaten pizza, it's not so easy, right? There are habits that have to be created, and habits, especially, I would guess most of your clients are probably, or patients are not 20, right?
Yes.
It's a transformation of many years of bad habits.
Yes.
Do you have suggestions and places or things that, or little tips that you give to your patients to encourage them to make changes?
So one of the things I began to realize that anything in life where you're given homework, you're more likely through the course of studying and researching, take that more into consideration than when you're fed, go to this site or go to that. So one of the things I love doing is utilizing what we call our current technology tools. So back when I think 20 plus years ago, a doctor was your 100% resource. Remember those days where there was no internet way to fact check anybody? You didn't have Dr. Google.
Go to the library.
Yeah. You had to go to the library, and then who was going to pick up a big medical textbook if they were not in the medical field? It was just intimidating. And so you literally had to depend on the clinician. You literally had a relationship where it was very skilled in the favor of the doctor. You had to go with his skill set. You had to go with his or her knowledge. You had to go with her recommendations. One of the ways that I find very good is I'm learning not to, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but I'm learning not to tell you where to go. Because what people do anyway is that they go online. First of all, for you to even find me, you're already researching me. You're already checking out my ratings. You're looking all the bad. You're looking at all the good. You could run circles around me when it comes to media, social media utilization. You're on TikTok and you heard if you drink this, you could get 10 more years back if you get that. So what I've learned is the best way to learn something new is to allow a person to come in where they're at.
Yes.
You meet people where they're at to get to where you want them to go. So my first job is to understand what's your thinking pattern? What's your approach? Because over 25 years of practicing, I noticed that advice I give, especially when it's that free without you putting in the work, you don't take it because you have so much stuff to digest that by the time you leave my office, you got 5 calls with this and that, the kids and that. Next, you know, is the paper with what I told you to do is on the back burner. You're off. Now, if I tell you to research on how we can treat, so this is my style, I'll say, I need you, without giving any medical credible sites, because now I got to meet you where you're at. I got to know the kinds of places you like to go source your information, because this is my way of getting to know who am I working with. This is a team. I'm not going to start a journey without figuring out where you're at so that I can figure out where I want to get you to. And the best way for me to teach you, to share with you, to guide you, is to know you. And so by me asking you to, I would like you, when you come back next, to share with me what you learned about how we can treat, I'll use the word, say, diabetes. Okay. You're likely going to go to places you've been going to anyway. You're likely going to pick up the information from where you've been going. This gives me a chance not to have a healthy debate versus tell you.
I told you so.
Then I can start to pick out your myths, your facts, start to use my knowledge, skill set to begin the change process. Then we're shifting now, we're making good change because right now you're also invested. I didn't spoon feed you on where to go, which is a mistake. Now you did some homework. So you've got some time equity you put in. Now we're putting in some equity together. Now I'm going to fact check and say, now that you had this and you found this on blah, 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 how about if you go here and let's now get back together, because based on the fact that we've done some blood work, we've taken a look at your genetics, I've done your physical assessment, I'm beginning to think you have a vitamin B12 deficiency, for instance. Let's just go with that. I'm thinking part of the reasons are that maybe your food sourcing or your choices are not allowing you to this. Now let's go in this direction so that you can now see a better way that you could now begin to do this or do that. Now this person is intrigued. I'm getting you curious. I'm appealing to you, but very subtly saying we're co-equals, but I just have a little bit more information. So I'm teasing you into now learning more. That's where I get my best change. So the doctor of 30 years ago, oh my God, I would be loving to tell you to get on WebMD, or I'll say, go to Mayo this. I'm just giving you more homework they're not even going to do. But then this way of, I don't know if you want to call it reverse psychology or what, but
empowering the patients.
Maybe it's empowerment, but I'm allowing you to tell me where your source is coming from. And then I may even find sometimes surprises, funny enough. Sometimes I'm learning some really cool things. So you just, you know, and sometimes I'm willing to admit to my patients, I had no clue this site was there. You know, I'm like, really? Can I have that again? Let me write that down because I'm getting off this. And
there's so many nowadays. You're right.
We got so much good stuff out there and so much like crazy stuff. So we got a whole bag of stuff out there. But sometimes I'm getting some really amazing stuff. You got patients who are going on to YouTube, they're going on to Instagram. They are just sourcing stuff from you. So I guess the answer to the question was a long answer. I apologize for that. But the answer is this. Part of the process is for me to learn too. And I think that if I stay as only the source of knowledge, this is a very one-sided relationship. And I need to wake up as a physician too, excited about possibly learning from my patients. And so one of the nicest things is I'm willing to be open-minded about the fact that I don't know everything. And I'm willing to take myself on a journey through sometimes some crazy stuff, so that at least I know what the craze is out there. And that will allow me to do a better job with the next person who comes and said, I heard this helps. At least somebody already told me this. I may not agree with you, but I'm not hearing this for the first time. So I guess whether it comes to food, even medications, nutraceuticals, We go into hormonal therapy, peptide therapies, integrative therapies, new and upcoming. I'm making you go back, but when you come back, we're going all in. And that's when I enjoy it, because I notice that they're a little better prepared. But at the same time, I'm picking up a lot on how you think, how you process, what your preferences are. And that's making me in real time tailor my messaging. So I'm just feeding off of what you're telling me and making it all the more better that you can receive it.
Completely agree with you, because when I do my coaching with clients, it's the same thing. I have to meet you where you are, right? So if I just throw at you a bunch of stuff and you're like just starting this work,
too much.
You know, the chances are, or if I tell you have to do this, what's the first thing that's going to happen? You're going to play defense and push away, right?
Exactly.
If I make you curious and just ask you a question to where you're like, and it's interesting when you ask sometimes people and you see like the look of, what is that supposed to mean, right?
Exactly.
You just make them curious and curious and curious.
Exactly.
You know, it's like a flower that's blossoming.
And then you see you can see it in the eyes, the light bulb. Yeah.
And you know, for some people it's shorter, for other people it's longer. And you're absolutely right. I completely agree with you that I tell my best teachers are my students, right? Because I get drawn through their bodies, the way they are moving, the way they're interacting with me, to the way they share information with me. What do you think about that? I read about that. Like you said, sometimes I'm like, I have never heard about that before. Let me really
check into it
out, right?
Yes.
Because I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything, but I think that is so spot on. And I do think that in that way, I would say you also create a trust relationship with people, right? To where you, one, meet them where they are, two, you're familiar with where they're mentally wise, right? On their journey, how much they're open to change, because some people are more people are more resistant to change. You slowly start making
build up. And I like the word you said, trust. I like that word, trust. And part of the conference that we attended, a physician who was sharing, she made a good point. You know, it's, you know, she talked about it's nice to have social media. It's nice to, you know, get rated. She said, but what's going to bring somebody back is that trust. Because there's so many good people out there who provide wonderful services, but there's something personal. It's a relationship, trust. I like that word you mentioned, Maria. I love it. Trust.
Well, so to wrap up, tell us, what does the self-care of Dr. Claudette Jatto look like? What keeps you grounded? Connected to your intuition, and what keeps that smile, that charming smile on?
One of the things that I would agree now is that I'm no good to anybody if I don't take care of myself.
Powerful.
I am no good to my patients. I'm no good to my family. I'm no good to my, I'm just no good. And this is the selfishness that it took me years to get into. The younger me would never do what I do now. But what I do is, before I get up to take care of anybody, I've got to get my mind right, my spiritual health right, my physical health right. So typical morning would be, self-care would be this. Making sure I wake up with enough time, first of all. That time is the most precious thing that I have, time. So I've got to give myself enough time to line myself up. So my typical morning would be getting up, starting off with meditation. I like to meditate in my room. I like to sit down with a sense of thankfulness, a sense of gratitude meditation, and to keep it never, quote unquote, the same, I go with whatever moves me. Sometimes I just the night before may have bumped into on, you know, some podcast on I'm curious. I'm like, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to do this. So I want to see that effect. So once I do that, get into my meditation, the next thing is I'm trying to get my spiritual connectivity going. And for me, that takes the form of doing what works for me. So I will read passages. For me to be reading the Bible passage, but then I want to meditate on content. And I want to see how that applies to me, to my service, to love, to my fellow human. So that's me still in contemplative mode. I'm not out of my room yet. I'm in control of the surroundings before my surroundings get controlled. And then I get off of my wonderful
Before the world
high vibration, so while my vibration is still high, I'm doing all of this. But then the next thing is movement. And I'm a believer that the best way to age well, the best way to be a good health provider is to talk what you preach what you do. So I am into exercise, and I've done this for the last 30 years, unfailingly every day. And it's the one thing I know for a fact that gives me that good endorphin rush, that gives me that let's go get them attitude. And it could vary. Some days I want to do my yoga. Some days I want to do Pilates. Some days I want to do kickboxing, get some anger out there. Some days I want to just do weights. Some days I want to get a good run going. I have come up with the thought that I no longer want to have this structure. You should do this, you should do that, you should go there. It's what feels to me that day I need to do. And that's what I listen to. Some days I'm tired and I can tell I've run hard. Some days I can do breathing as my workout, where I'm going really hard at my breathing exercises, centering myself and realizing that that relaxation is the workout for the day. Then after that, I'm willing to face the world because Lord knows what's going to happen.
But you're ready. Your
But I'm ready.
like already.
I'm
Your
ready.
vibes are high.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
High. Your cup is full, right?
My cup is full. And that's the only time of the day that I've come to terms with that I'm in control of. So I'm very selfish. So everybody knows in my house, you do not disturb me. The house has to be on fire for you to break the protocol.
And I want boundaries, right? You teach those around you how
it works.
My family knows if I say I gotta go do my run or my Pilates, yes. They know, don't bother me because mommy or daughter or wife is not gonna be happy bothered during that.
Well, that's time. Me. If I'm not happy, we're all not gonna be happy. So I can hear people tiptoeing. She's meditating. Because if you disturb my meditation, I'm a crazy person.
And what I do have to say is what I really enjoy the intention and listening to your body, because I educate people on that. You have to, one, do something that you enjoy, and two, you have to listen to your body. So not every day is going to be a kickboxing day.
No.
Not every day is going to be a HIIT type of workout day, right? Some days might be more stretching.
Yeah.
And I think we fall so guilty of the stereotypes. This is the best workout, will burn so many calories and blah, 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 blah. No. If you're not respecting the way your body is tuned in to what it needs or what it needs to be nourished for that day, and I use movement as nourishment. That's so important.
I agree. So you really have to listen. I call that the inner voice. You have to listen. And part of being a physician after all these years, I want patients to start to trust the voice. And so my job is to affirm it. And so when they come into the office, sometimes I hear them saying, I knew it, I should have done this. And I go, amazing. I said, you're getting to that place where you're becoming your own healer. You're becoming your own little inner physician. And so if you can get people to trust more, because I think we all know after a certain age, we know when we're not eating right, we know when we're not moving right. We don't even know when so we know. Now the question is, am I willing to partner with my patients? Am I willing to partner with my clients and affirm that, you know what? A lot of the things that you suspected you needed to do are the things that I'm here to echo you need to do. And now just me putting a seal on it, that's where I see a lot of shift happening, where you see people now taking it and running. Because they'll tell you, you know what? I'm not a gym person. Trust yourself. You're not a gym person. I'm not somebody who likes structured exercise. Trust yourself. You're not a structured exercise. I've had patients saying things like, I enjoy dancing. I said, you know what? The last time I checked, that's one of the best exercises. You're laughing, you're happy. Dancing has no endpoint. It is one of the best exercises I can think of. That's your modality. Go for it. So I think that the willingness to be able to now say, okay, this is what works for me. I want to be that doctor who goes, I agree. Let's work around that and let's just build on that versus I need you to go this way. I need you to eat that way. I need you to work out here and I need you to do that. That's not what you're going to hear from me. So I think wellness is that state where you're becoming tuned in. So you're beginning to get it physically, mentally, spiritually.
I think it's when you tune in and you realize that, for example, movement is not just losing weight.
No.
It is huge for your overall health.
Yeah.
It's great for your mental health.
Yes.
Right? All of your self-care is a predisposition for living a better life, a more authentic and
I
full life.
agree.
So
I agree.
I have so enjoyed this.
This was fun.
Yes, a soulful conversation, and those are my favorites.
This was fun.
Those people who enjoyed you and tell us, do you do virtual visits? Tell us how can people get
do virtual visits thanks to COVID-19. This is not our reality. So what was never considered is now a wonderful format. And I love the fact that whether you live where I work or you don't, I can now be that person who can be accessed. So I love virtual. We just had a virtual experience. It was as good as us being in the room, talking, sharing. And I think sometimes with my virtual visits, I frankly feel like we have the time to share and talk. So some of my patients are now, how do I put this? They live close by, but they want the virtual.
I've had that happen too. I had people who like, no, I never want to do virtual in the beginning of the
Yeah.
I'm like, just try it. And then they try it and they live close by. They're like, no, I don't want to change
like,
up clothes and
exactly. So I'm like, no, you need to come in. They're like, no. I want to have the virtual. I'll be like, can we back in? Can we negotiate? Can I have one in and then X virtual? But yeah, it's a wonderful tool that has become now part of mainstay. I don't think it's ever going to go away. It's here to stay.
Yeah. How can people get in touch with you? Best way.
Wonderful. So please, the usual ways. My office phone number, should I give that shout out right now? 717-327-4448. My website, www.jattointernalmed.com. That has our emails and it has all the ways, Facebook. So I think the website is fantastic as a nice way to start because, contact and all that stuff is right there. So I'm going to say, check my website out. If you don't remember the name, just put Dr. Jatto. Google find me.
Unique enough. Unique enough, rebellious enough. There we go.
That's right.
Way to end, right?
But let me quickly do this before we agree to end. I would be remiss not to say that I've not only enjoyed myself, this was an amazing share, and I hope that whoever's listening to us is inspired. We're hoping that you find your why. We're hoping that something about this sparked a little fire in you. And if this makes you be that best version of you, then Maria, your job and we did a good job.
Look at that. You just did my closing.
Oh, did I just? Oh. Okay, I just took your shine. Okay, no, do the closing.
I love it because you know what? Once again, like attracts like, right? And that is the purpose. When we spoke about what are we going to talk about, I said this is going to be super casual, not orchestrated. It's going to be a conversation aimed to inspire people to reinforce what they're doing or to inspire them to make change.
Totally. I think we did something. Good today.
Yes. Well, if you have any questions for Dr. Jatto or myself, please make sure to post them. We are so excited that you tuned in and listened, and we'll see you next time. Have a rebellious day.
Have a blessed day. Bye.
Can't get enough of those rebellious conversations? Do make sure you subscribe, like, and share with your friends.